Well, good evening, everybody. As much as I thought that our technical difficulties were sorted, they weren't entirely, but thank you for joining us for another episode of Constitutional Considerations here on Tactical Review. I thank you all for joining us, and with the technical difficulties sorted out, I thank Elias Ward of the Liberty Review podcast for joining us. Elias, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, a little sick and tired of being sick and tired, but what are you going to do about it, right?
That time of year.
Well, we've got Zeke Shoots in the chat. We've got Switch Pod. And we'll give folks just a few minutes to get joined in here. So, let's see. I know we attempted to have you join in on the stream on the 26th, and that just didn't work out. So, good holiday season for you and yours?
Yeah, everything has gone pretty well, and had a little bit of time off work, which was nice. So
absolutely. See, I had a mixed bag there in that I took a week off, and it was just enough time to get me out of my normal routine. And so now trying to get back into it's been just great. So, well, excuse me, guys. And there's that cold I was talking about. So, well, we are going to start with a subject that is kind of near and dear to Elias and I, being Hoosiers. And it's something that was brought to my attention today, and that is Indiana Senate Bill 203. And I'm going to flip over to another tab and read that to you guys. And it's basically an assault weapons ban, but I'll read. This isn't the whole bill. This is the digest of it. Introduced by Senator Greg Taylor. I don't remember which district. It's one of the districts that includes 33. There you go. Okay, there's a chunk of Indianapolis in there. And it prohibits the sale, trade, or transfer of a regulated weapon to a person less than 21 years of age. Provides that a dealer or person who knowingly or intentionally sells, trades, or transfers a regulated weapon to a person less than 21 years of age commits a level 6 felony. I'm guessing that's a bad one. I don't know if level 6 is high or low in Indiana. Anyway, provides certain defenses, prohibits a person from possessing, selling, or offering for sale a magazine or similar device for a firearm with a capacity of more than 10 rounds, because that 11th round is the magic bullet that blows up the planet, of ammunition. Provides that a person who knowingly or intentionally openly carries a prohibited weapon in a public place commits a carrying a prohibited firearm Class A misdemeanor. Creates the crime, so we're going to create a new crime with this bill too, of unlawful possession of a multi-burst trigger activator. Provides that the possession or sale of a multi-burst trigger activator is a Class A misdemeanor. Provides that the crime of unlawful possession of a multi-burst trigger activator is a level 6 felony if the person has a prior unrelated conviction for the offense. And what the digest doesn't do is it doesn't go through what those regulated weapons are, but in a nutshell, they are center fire rifles with scary features, because those make them deadlier.
Well, yeah. So, real quick, my thoughts on this one, unless you want to go first.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So, when you actually read 203, it's actually kind of funny. So it talks about the following definitions apply through this section. Action means any mechanism on a firearm responsible for one or more of the following: loading a cartridge, locking a cartridge, firing a cartridge, or ejecting or extracting a cartridge. Let's see, you want to talk about regulated. I want to see if it actually talks about regulated in here. No,
What?
it doesn't define it. Oh, here we go. Regulated weapon means a semi-automatic center-fire rifle with an internal magazine or the capability to accept a detachable magazine and at least one of the following characteristic. The very creepy pistol grip.
Oh, yeah.
Is that, yeah. A thumb hole stock.
Ooh.
A folding or a telescoping stock.
Oh, you're scared.
So,
Stop, you're scaring me.
yeah, mine is probably would scare him if he ever saw it. A mount or lock capable of accepting or fixing a bayonet, flare launcher, or grenade launcher, a flash suppressor, and a forward pistol grip. Don't let him see mine. So, that's what they define as a regulated weapon. Now, to give you some idea of what a level 6 felony is in Indiana, that is a punishable up to 2.5 years.
Oh.
And a $10,000 fine. And examples of a level 6 felony is theft, auto theft, forgery, let's see, criminal confinement, strangulation, sexual battery, failure to register as an offender, residential entry. So that's kind of where he sees that's how bad it is to own one of those.
Jeez.
Now, here's what I will say about him. He has been in office since 2008.
Okay.
And has effectively done nothing. When you actually look at his list of bills, he's done nothing. It almost feels like he knows this isn't going to go anywhere because this is Indiana, and a bill like this is going to die in committee. It almost seems like he's trying to do I try to do something, that's why you guys should reelect me. So I'm wondering if he's up for reelection and trying to pull something because really he's done nothing.
Right.
So I'm really curious as to if that's what this is all about. Because it is Indiana, and there's no way this bill would ever get passed.
Right. You and I agree on that. As a matter of fact, after I sent the link to you earlier, my Facebook lit up with other sources that had all independently found and posted it. But see, here's my question. You know, he's really worried about that multi-burst trigger activator.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a multi-burst trigger activator?
Pretty sure he could find a way to make it that way.
You know, for legal reasons, it's a joke. This is a hot dog barbecue and fork. But with a little creativity, see, that's what the problem is, and we're going to kind of come back to this. The cat's out of the bag on this. You can't stop the signal. So, anyway, no, I do agree that there's very little chance of it gaining traction in Indiana. But Indiana folks, if you are of voting age, reach out to your representatives. Your senators, your district senators in this case, since it is a Senate bill. I've already reached out to my district senator and said, you know, just a general, you know, gun laws don't do anything. This is an infringement of the second. If it comes time to vote on it, I want you to know as your constituent, I want you to vote no. If you guys know people in Indiana that aren't watching the stream, make sure that you guys are passing that along, because the situation we see unfolding in Virginia, I think, is just because of people getting lax and saying, oh, it's Virginia, it can never happen here.
Yes.
So,
and I was going to say, there is that point to it, that while we know right now in Indiana this couldn't pass, the very fact that there are those who believe that something like this is even a good idea,
right,
is concerning, and something that this is the reason why you have to watch it. Like you said, Virginia did get lax, and that's where it led to. It wouldn't take much for Indiana to get lax.
Oh, absolutely. We've got pressure from Illinois because all of the violence in Chicago is Indiana's fault. Of course, we've got Gary. Gary is famously a roughneck of the woods. Indianapolis is super anti-gun. You and I have had that conversation.
Yeah, I live here now, I know.
So, anyway, hey, I see that we've got more folks in the chat. Let me roll down through here. I see Duval Farms in the chat. Glad to see you here. Mateo's in. I think I said hi in the chat. Poor Conservative, thanks for joining. I see Switch Pod. Liberty Review. Who's that guy?
I don't know. Kick him out.
Vanessa Kitty, welcome to AEDU. Glad you could join, bud. really exciting stuff that you shared with me in direct message the other day. I'm excited. I mean, I think since I started following, or since I subscribed to 2AEDU's channel, he's gained another like 2,000 subs just in these last few months. So, awesome job, man. Let's see, Vanessa Kitty, Beretta Man's here. Missing anybody else yet? I'm not. Came with the bump. Yeah, Vanessa Kitty talking about the bump stock band. Yeah, it's, and here's the thing, guys, is that, and we've talked about this before, we have to remember it's super important not to say, well, that's a stupid thing, nobody needs that. Whether it's binary triggers, whether it's the Franklin Armory Reformation, whatever it is. There's a lot of things out there that, in fact, I had no desire to have a bump stock until they told me I couldn't have a bump stock. And I still think tactically it's a very stupid thing, but it doesn't matter because they use this to chip away at our liberties. So, let's see, trying to, Gary's the Hood. Indy's okay around 30th and Pendleton Pike. Yeah. Boomer Gaming asked 2AEDU how much those subs cost. Oh, you're gonna kill me, like literally. All right, good grief. So I don't think there's a lot more to say about Senate Bill 203 except reach out to your district senators and just say, hey, hit the brakes on this. We don't want this going anywhere.
The other thing I will say is this is why you keep an eye on what's going on, because these things do get, and right now maybe it's safe, but things usually happen a little bit at a time.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, and I utilize, like, I'm going to come, one of the sources that I use a lot, and I'm going to mention them several times through moving through the topics tonight, is Ammo Land News. And between them and I try to get on Gun Owners of America and just check their legal watch page. And there's other good resources. Those are just the ones I use. And just try to keep an eye on things because stuff gets snuck through in like spending bills and things that where you wouldn't necessarily anticipate it. Looking at you, Patriot Act. So, yeah. Let's see. Gosh. Hey, you know, Elias, you just posted about Nerf guns scaring you, and blah. You know that there's a consumer watch group is trying to make that happen, right?
Yeah. See, I wouldn't be surprised.
So, I mean, I didn't know if you knew that or not, but that's how
No, but it wouldn't surprise me.
That's how ridiculous this is getting because we are quote training children to shoot each other.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue. You know, when you talk about kids shooting each other, then people's minds go to school shootings. And I'm not going to dismiss a tragedy. That's not anything I ever want to do. But going back to news sources that I caught through Ammo Land News this last week, at very end of last week, the numbers have been in from the 2018 FBI crime statistics, and so they finished crunching the number on likelihood of becoming a victim of a mass shooting. Now, I mean, you guys can sound off in the chat. Yeah, if you just pay attention to the news, Elias, just keeping in mind what the news and what you'd see on social media, how likely, based on that, do you think it is that you would be a victim of a mass shooting?
Based on the media?
Yeah, based on the media.
Every time I walk out my door.
Right. So,
or at work. Don't be surprised.
Oh, yeah, hey, I work at a school, so I'm like, I should probably...
That's highly increased risk.
I should probably be a victim of a mass shooting twice a day. I've actually died like 700 times since starting my current job.
I believe it.
Okay, so do you happen...
The Nerf guns.
It's the Nerf guns. We're training kids to shoot each other. So, when was the last time, Elias, that you were getting ready to leave the house and you said, man, I hope I don't get struck by lightning today. I really think that there's a good chance of it.
Probably the last time I thought, I hope I don't get shot today.
Okay. So,
not a lot.
Right.
Not a lot.
It's just, it's not something I think about. It's not something, and this is actually kind of where I'm wanting to go with this. Especially those of you who have some sort of job, whether it's through your church with a youth group, or you work at a school, or you are a school student. The reason I'm saying that is, and I'm going to come back to some numbers here, is that you actually have a higher chance of being struck by lightning than being the victim of a mass shooting. And I've known that. Excuse me. But I actually saw the numbers, and it's staggering. Did I share these with you, Elias?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the odds of being struck by lightning in any given year are 1 in 700,000. So that means for every 700,000 people any given year, one person is struck by lightning. So I should have done the math on this, but we have roughly 337 million. Is that the current population, something like that?
Somewhere around there.
We'll go 330 million. Divided by 700,000. That's 70. No calculator. I want you to calculate that, please. So according to that, roughly every year, 475 people are struck by lightning in the United States. Your odds of being the victim of a mass shooting in any given year excuse me, are 1 in 11.6 million. You are literally 16.6 times more likely on any given day to walk out your door and be struck by lightning than you are to be someplace and end up a victim of a mass shooting. So 2AEDU says impossible to know because there's so many are undocumented. So many shootings or so many lightning strikes?
Probably lightning strikes.
Probably. I mean, man, you guys have been busy in the chat here. Let's see. I'm going to scroll back through.
Yeah, well, never tell me the odds.
Okay. All right, Han. 2A. Yeah, Zeke, those clouds are out to get people. All right, you actually have a 1 in 3,000 chance of being a lightning strike victim in your entire life. Those aren't good odds. 2AEDU was saying that it's hard to know the current population because there's so many. We're not touching that subject.
Yeah.
This is how we get streams taken.
Yeah. That's called a tangent.
So anyway, backing away from that. All right, so, those of us on the pro 2A side have always known that, all of this anti-gun fear-mongering, and that's what it is, guys. It's fear-mongering. It's always blown out of proportion. So here's something interesting. If you go to the Wikipedia page on mass shootings, you actually won't come up with the same odds from the official FBI study. So, the reason for that, Elias, do you know the current working definition of a mass shooting?
Isn't it like more than like 3 people?
It is where there are 4 casualties. Yeah. And
that third one, those 3 don't matter,
right.
That fourth one.
Well, and that's what they do is they've decided, because, guys, mass shooting is, now I get it, all of our words are made up words, okay, so you don't have to hit me with that, but it's a made up, it's like assault weapon. It's something that the anti-gunners can use to scare people.
It's used for fear.
Yes. So since there was no excuse me, there's no real definition for it, so they had to come up with one so that they could have this term, mass shooting, and be able to make it mean something. So they went with the basically they took the FBI definition of mass murder and then forced it to fit any kind of like active shooter situation. Now an active shooter, that's a real thing, and they can have any number of victims.
Right.
Well, here's the problem though with the way that the anti-gunners come up with their numbers is okay, let's say right here on this live stream, 5 people, kick in my back door and try to harm my family, and I go defend my family successfully. All right, now number one, I would have to make sure I'm off camera before I unholstered, otherwise they'd take the stream down. Nobody, anybody gonna laugh about that? No. Anyway, so, but if I go and successfully defend my family, that's a self-defense situation, correct? I mean, I think we'd all agree on that. In the eyes of the anti-gunners, I've just committed a mass shooting. So when you go back through 2017 or 2018 and you see those news stories where somebody successfully defended their home against multiple armed assailants, those go into the anti-gunners' logs, if you will, into their statistics as mass shootings because there was a gun involved and there were more than 4 casualties. So anyway, yeah, odds are super against that. Elias, I feel bad. I didn't actually get you my outline beforehand, so you could do a little preparatory work.
Well.
I'm sorry. I've excuse me. Of course, in my defense, you didn't tell me until like after work that you were going to be able to join me. So.
Right.
Let's see. Fear-mongering, terrorism uses fear, domestic politician. Vanessa, I absolutely agree that that politicians and the media are domestic terrorists. I have said countless times, I'm absolutely all for the First Amendment, but I think that our media needs to be held liable for inciting mass hysteria. Yeah, 2A, my cat has decided that she wants to be a guest star tonight. So, let's see. Trying to have it, poor conservative, haven't unholstered on camera in 30 years.
Cat equals Chinese food.
Well, I keep threatening my daughter and she won't let me, but this cat is Satan incarnate. She just happens to not be showing her true self right now. So, all right. So anyhow, those are solid numbers though. If you work with young people and you have somebody who's just really freaked out and more likely, like so much more likely to be struck by lightning than a victim of mass shooting. Now again, and this is the important part. This is why those of us who concealed carry, those of us who study self-defense and train, it's not because it's not because it's so likely. It's because it's so important. Or it's not because the odds are so high, it's because the stakes are so high. It's either your probability of being in that situation is either almost 0 or 100%, right? So, excuse me, guys. I'm really sorry about this. So, Lord, man, this chat's getting out of control. Love it. I love it. I've actually for a while wanted to, like I watch Grand Thumb and he talks about the comment section being out of control, and I'm like, I want one of those. I want a bunch of people,
random things.
People like me in the
now we're
chat.
talking about cats.
Yeah, that's okay. As long as, oof. See, you guys say cats, and then I think of the AKG Discord server. If you guys want to see some memes that you never should have seen. Join Brandon Herrera's Discord server and bring the eye bleach. Okay, moving on. So, but we talked about when we were talking about those odds, we talked about how the anti-gunners like to mess with what counts for what. We talked about the fact that they are the ones who defined what a mass shooting is in the first place. So let's move on to Moms Demand Action. Great group. I'm a member. You're a member, aren't you, Elias?
I don't even know what you're talking about, but it sounds horrible. Sounds horrible, so I'm going to assume it is.
It is. It's actually an advocacy group funded by Michael Bloomberg. Great guy. And they're...
No, it can be funded by him. It says right here it's a grassroots movement.
Oh. Right. Some sort of grass. So, yeah, poor conservative, that sums up my feelings about Mom's Demand entirely. Very vocal group. We've got to stop this violence against our children. I agree. Peel off those frickin' stickers on the door. The gun-free schools. What was that? 93, Elias? Hang on.
Sure, we can go with that.
Gun-Free Schools Act. 1994. I was really close. Anyway, so it's funny. All of the before 1994, I'm not going to say there was no active shooter situations at schools, but they were very, very few. And then after we made all of these schools gun-free zones, the violence escalated. So, excuse me, I'm having to approve. Poor conservative is saying exactly what I'd like to think, and YouTube's not sure that everybody else needs to know that, and so yeah. Zeke asking, yeah, by and large, Zeke, 9 o'clock on Wednesdays is my regular stream time. I move it around if there's holiday. Like I didn't stream on Christmas. I did stream last week on New Year's, and a lot of you guys were busy, and that, that's cool. A lot of you guys were doing Christmas stuff. I used to do that with my family, with like my side of the family on New Year's Day. So, all right. Anyway, back to Mom's Demand. So they are redefining a gun-free zone. Have you seen this yet, Elias?
No, but I'm reading some of their myths, and it makes me want to laugh.
It makes me want to throw up. You and I have vastly different meanings of humor. But
well, my favorite one here is myth. Criminals will always find a way to get their hands on guns. Fact. Laws like background checks stop gun sales to criminals every day.
What? No. Stop.
They stop the gun sales in the gun stores by the people who are abiding by the law.
Stop. I'm going to have to go drink some alcohol and kill some brain cells for you to keep saying
Seriously,
like
these guys are hilarious. They're so wrong.
So, excuse me. Vanessa Kitty, I work at a school where we still stand for the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and then we give the students a moment of silence if they want to dedicate the day to the deity of their choice. And then the elementary school also has a leadership pledge that they do about making good choices and, whatever. If we're going to indoctrinate some kids, let's indoctrinate them and make good choices. I'm okay with that. Anyway, so, Elias, quick, top of your head, what defines a gun-free zone?
Somewhere with a force field that automatically stops guns from entering.
Okay.
That's why the school you work in is the safest place in the world.
Right. Actually, that's why they're redefining gun-free zones. So, obviously, all sarcasm aside, a gun-free zone is someplace where normal civilians aren't legally allowed to have a gun. I mean, right?
Correct.
Well,
the idea being that there will be no gun, nobody would bring guns into this area because it's illegal. Therefore, it is a very safe space.
Correct. Unfortunately, and that makes sense to normal-minded, law-abiding citizens. Unfortunately, criminals are none of the above.
Correct. It's worked about as well as the drug wars.
Well, exactly. Um, so, the problem is that those of us with 2 or 3 brain cells right next to each other where they can communicate back and forth, we are seeing this trend that gun-free zones are killing zones. They're soft targets, and these bad people who want to do bad things realize that they can maximize their damage before they themselves are taken out because there's nobody going to shoot back. Excuse me. So, because we can't have gun-free zones being less safe than regular zones in the minds of these anti-gun groups like Moms Demand Action, they are redefining a gun zone to be a location where civilians are not allowed to carry a weapon legally, and important conjunction there, and there is not a regular law enforcement presence. Yes, Vanessa, they are actually advertising themselves as soft zones. You're absolutely right. So, they're putting that "and" in there. So technically, the school where I work, because we have an armed resource officer, we've partnered with our county sheriff, and we have a deputy who is stationed at our school during every regular school day, and he's an awesome guy, and we talk a lot and talk about guns and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, because of his presence, even though my school is a gun-free zone, because of the Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1994, it's not a gun-free zone because we have a sheriff's deputy there regularly. And, well, they're doing that because that way they can say that it's not going to stop these school shootings. They don't care about the school shootings. They care about the fact that the school shootings are disproving the safety of gun-free zones. So by redefining that, all of these school shootings are no longer happening in gun-free zones. It doesn't matter to them, okay, to them. It doesn't matter that children have died. It doesn't matter that staff members have stood in the gap and given their lives. It just matters that they don't look as bad if anybody with a couple of brain cells looks at the numbers. I can't fathom the mental gymnastics that it takes to reach that conclusion. All right. Zeke shoots. Yeah, the post. Zeke, I stole that, and I took a screenshot from the original poster to give credit. But yeah, absolutely. It's a locked gate on a path without any kind of fence around it. That's exactly what every gun law is. Perfectly fine with private entity tell me I cannot carry with all duty. They're actually advertising themselves. Oh, yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Say, this state prevents arms in vehicles on school grounds or in any place of school function. Just involuntary contract with you guys. It's wow. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go through and address all the stuff I'm seeing over here in chat. Of course, Elias, I know that you're chiming in there. And you and I have had that conversation a lot about whether or not to carry if you work someplace that disallows it. And it's that moral obligations, excuse me, moral obligations versus legal obligations.
And you have to kind of decide
absolutely
what risk you're willing to take. We used to say in the military, do what your pay grade can handle. You know,
Yeah.
I actually really liked at my last employer. One thing I did like about them, for all the things I didn't, one thing I did like about them is that they explicitly, on purpose, did not have a restriction on carrying weapons into the building. And I talked to somebody in HR about that once, just out of curiosity. I said, "Well, do you ever see yourself putting that?" And she said, "No." She goes, "We don't want to be responsible that if somebody is leaving here after dark, leaving a credit union after dark, and gets assaulted, that they weren't able to protect themselves because we told them that for some reason they weren't allowed to have a gun with them inside the building, as if somehow that made a difference."
Right. Well,
So, it was like, but yeah, I
excuse me.
mean, outside of that, you have to kind of decide what risk level are you okay with.
Absolutely. And that goes back to, if you work someplace where you're looking at termination, if you carry and you're not supposed to and you get caught, is that, and for some people, maybe that's not an acceptable loss. Maybe you're a single income family, and I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. We can't speak to you. In my case, I'm looking at not just termination. I'm looking at picking up a felony. And so that, and I hate that changes the discussion. I don't know. You and I have talked about this at length in various different chats and whatnot. So, I do love the fact that in Indiana, those signs don't carry the force of law, with the exception of it's a half a dozen to 10 places that Indiana adds on top of federal locations. They do explicitly, and in the Indiana Penal Code, spell out schools, and I don't remember the rest. Boomer Gaming, I don't know. We are part of a Discord server, but it's not a personal Discord server to either of us. So,
I mean, we could start one for this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Excuse me. So, India. Oh yeah, and so we were talking about those gun-free zone signs. Indiana don't carry the force of law, with the exception of a handful of states or places.
Oh, hey.
Yo.
Hey, real quick though, interesting point. Did you know that if you are asked to leave a place in Indiana, the way the law is written, let's say you go into a Target finds out you're carrying concealed somehow because you don't know actually how to carry concealed correctly. They ask you to leave, and you tell them no. And they say, "Well, we have a sign." You'd be like, "That's great." No. If they ask you to leave or they do any kind of force against you, you can actually bring a civil case to them. The state of Indiana's laws regard it the same way as they ask you to leave because you're black.
Wow. I know.
It's considered discrimination. And you can actually sue.
I was unaware of that, because if I remember correctly, though, if they don't try to forcibly remove you, they can, because they've asked you to leave, call the police and have you removed for trespassing. So
correct.
Gotcha.
And they can do that. But you are allowed to bring a suit. Whether you win or not is obviously dependent on the jury and the whatever facts are brought forth. But you do have recourse to sue them, as if, just like they can't tell a black guy, "We want you to leave because you're black, and now we're going to call trespassing on you." They're not allowed to do that. They also can't do it because you're carrying a firearm in Indiana.
That's the way it should be. Just look, our rights, ladies and gentlemen, our rights don't end where somebody's feelings begin.
That hurt my feelings.
That's okay. I still had the right to say it. I still love you, brother, but I still had the right to say it. And that's why, that's hate speech. Don't listen. Look, if you get close enough to the guy, dot his I. But hate speech is a made-up thing, all right? Either grow some skin or ignore the person, all right? And that's not to say, I get it. Bullying is a real thing, and it really does lead people, if they're on the precipice of depression, that can push them over the edge, and I get that, and we should all be decent human beings and want to be decent human beings, but we have to pussyfoot through life anymore. In fact, I'm probably going to get a channel strike just for saying it that way.
I unsubbed.
So did 15 other people probably, but anyway, so Tennessee. I used to live in the state of Tennessee, and it was a pretty great place, fairly gun-friendly as well. In Tennessee, the signs do carry the force of law, provided, this is funny, there's loopholes everywhere, because, laws are worded so ambiguously. So, provided that there are signs posted at every point of ingress, every reasonable point of ingress, and there was actually a size, like they had to be X size or larger.
Yeah.
So, fun fact, when I used to visit the Hamilton Place Mall in Chattanooga, Tennessee, if I entered through Sears, it was not posted as a gun-free zone. And because they missed that point of ingress, and it was not posted from Sears into the mall itself either, I checked. So, and I was never asked to leave because I happen to know what concealed means. Anyway, after I moved out of the state of Tennessee, there was a situation where a woman was, I don't know if it was I don't think it was an ex-husband. I think she was like some sort of a public type figure, and she had picked up a stalker. And there were restraining orders in place and whatnot. And she went to a restaurant. It was posted as a gun-free zone. And when she and her family walked back out to her vehicle, wherein her weapon was safe and secured, they were accosted on the way, and she was murdered by this stalker. Her family brought suit against the restaurant and against the state of Tennessee because she was forcibly disarmed. And the state of Tennessee has since changed the law to explicitly spell out a place of business's liabilities if they choose to disarm law-abiding citizens. So, I mean, those are success stories, things like that. All right, let's see what excuse me. Let's see what's going on here in the chat. Is it going to burn my eyes? I think you've been kind of following along.
There's a lot going on.
Duval Farms has stepped out. I don't know if you still got an earbud in. Night, man. Depending on which Duval it is, I'll see you tomorrow. Every gun law. Vanessa, aren't you in Connecticut?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's.
She mentioned it a little bit ago. I meant to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's amazing to me how anti-gun so many of the original 13 colonies are now. It's something if you don't learn from the past, something. It might be a good idea to start our own Discord. We might look into that. I've never fired up a Discord. I know guys who have, though. It can't be that hard. Rolling through here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Zeke. Yeah. Those signs don't carry the force of law. I love it. But the bad thing about that is that then you have to really do your homework, because I'm so used to disregarding those signs, like when I go to zoos and things like that. Fun fact, the Indianapolis Children's Museum houses a full-time preschool. So that's not just a museum, that is a school zone. So when you get into that habit of disregarding those signs, you can find yourself actually committing a felony. Now, once again, if you are concealing, but if something were to happen while you were there, I think it'd be a matter of, well, thanks for saving the kids, welcome to jail. So there's that. And
it really, a lot of it's going to depend on your county prosecutor. Like here in Marion County, I would be screwed.
Right. Where up here in, well, I'm not going to put that final point on it, but up here where I am, our county prosecutor was actually a strong advocate for putting teachers at our county schools through a training course and arming staff members. And this was well before the Indiana provisions that made it even easier. So, super pro 2A guy. I'm going to say I'm good friends with the sheriff, and I guess that's probably not necessarily the right verbiage, but he and I are on first name basis, and not for bad reasons. And we speak every time we see each other out and about in public. So anyway, fallback. Oh, Boomer Gaming. Yeah, my fallback right now is, and it doesn't do anything for live streams, but I am on Gunstreamer. It's automatically synchronizing And I have a BitChute account set up, and it's not syncing properly, so I'm going to have to take the time to upload all of my videos. But I also have a local copy so far of all of the videos I've uploaded this year. So I do have a fallback of sorts in place. 9mm, if your weapon's not kept hidden, they'll charge you with a felony for scary old ladies. So Arizona rolling through 2AEDU chat, talking up the live streams. Thanks, man. Yeah, and I'm definitely, I mean, we've got 12 people in here now. We were at 15, and Zeke saying BitChute's a pain. Yes, it's not user friendly. Discord's easy. What do you like? Discord, read and study them all. Boy, Vanessa, are you sure you're still in the United States, or have you found yourself in Soviet Russia, comrade? I have an AK you can use. I'm all out of vodka, though. Children. It's 18 less. Safe gun storage. Oh, I hate safe gun storage laws. Excuse me, you're not going to tell me how I'm going to secure my firearm to have it ready if a bad... what bad guys do you know that knock on the door and say, hey, I'm going to kick in your door in 3 minutes, ready or not?
Considerate ones.
Full 30. No, I reserved my channel name on Full 30 clear back actually when I uploaded my very first video on YouTube. At the time, Tim from Military Arms was still an active partner with Full 30, and he was always recommending them, and so I was like, hey, I'll go set up over there. And Chris from Regular Guy Training is on Full 30. And I've reserved my channel name, and I've never got an email. So if you have contact with the admins over there, I would very happily also set up on Full 30. But as of right now, I've not gotten a call back. I ended up going to Gunstreamer based on the advice of Mark over at Fit and Fire, because he's in the same boat. He hasn't gotten an email back from Full 30 yet. So, where you based? Plastic bags have a 10-cent tax. What the heck? What the oh, and safe storage. I thought she was saying safe. Okay. I'm caught up in the chat for now. Y'all are blowing it up tonight. I like that.
Give it 3 minutes.
Last week it was just a little slow because, like I said, everybody was busy, and so, and even Elias had to bail on me. So, all right. Okay. So any place that the state or the federal government tells you you can't have a firearm as a private citizen is a gun-free zone. I don't care what Moms Demand Action says. Those are killing zones. The criminals know that they have, on national average, 10 minutes before anybody responds. Anybody who tells you otherwise is an idiot, the enemy, or both. Okay, done. All right. Anything to add to that, Elias?
I can think of.
All right. Real quick. The insanity in Virginia hasn't ended either. Of course, you know, you guys know that. But 2 days ago? Okay, they've already put forth stuff for confiscation. They have increased funding for imprisonment. They have threatened cessation of communications and utilities in counties that won't comply with confiscation. What am I forgetting here, Elias? There's another one.
They went ahead and put the money on the side, knowing how many.
Yeah. They have disallowed classes. Excuse me. So you can't train because it's militia activity. Damn right, it's militia activity. All right. Earlier this week, they introduced, I don't have a date on this. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Offer January 8th. Oh, hey, that's today.
It was pre-filed 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was filed 2 days ago, but it was actually read out on the floor this morning.
Okay. So, fresh off the presses, Virginia Democrats have introduced House Bill number 567. Elias, you want to take this one? I talked about the last one.
That's hilarious. Let's see. You're not allowed to have a shooting range pretty much anymore. Let's see. Let's read the text of this again. Nope. I'm reading the other one. Wrong one. What was the number of it? 567. Here we go. Indoor shooting range. Pretty much it's illegal to operate indoor shooting range in any building not owned or leased by the Commonwealth of Virginia or the feds unless you have fewer than 50 people or at least 90% of your users are LEOs. The indoor shooting range maintains a log of each user's name, phone number, address, and the law enforcement. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. I read that wrong. Pretty much if you are employing more than 50 employees, then you're not allowed to have an indoor range anymore.
Statism, boys and girls. Yeah, and so it sounds like the one... Lost my microphone. Sounds like the one kind of loophole is if you don't employ over 50 people, but
yeah,
even at that, you have to maintain a log of everybody who comes into your range. And
no, actually, you know what? I think we both read that wrong earlier. I don't think this one's as bad as we thought it was. So if you look at it, I'm going to put it into the chat over here and see.
Oh, hey, I meant to...
Yeah, I think that was a bad on us. If you actually look at it, it says 1 and 2. 2 has ABC, and those are all related to 2, which is because they're looking for logs of the law enforcement agencies where the users are employed. I actually think this is targeting cops.
But it says unless your employees are Leos.
Yeah, so what it says is unless 1, fewer than 50 employees, or 2, at least 90%, they maintain a log and where the LEOs work at, and they verify the identity and address. I think this is targeting cops. And it wouldn't surprise me if you consider how many public service have stated that they would not comply with this law, including LEOs. And I think this is targeting cops. Which actually, I'm not sure if that makes it worse or better.
I don't know. Regardless, it's an infringement, and so yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna hit you up in this chat and see if you see what I'm talking about.
Well,
I didn't catch it earlier. Just privately. But if you look at it, it says I, which is using for 1, or 2. That 2 is all together. This is I think this is targeting cops that are not training where they're supposed to be training.
Oh, that.
Yeah, I think this is a way to make sure they keep cops in line because of how many said they would go against those laws.
I don't know. It doesn't, one way or the other, telling somebody that they, one of the most dangerous people with a firearm anyway is an untrained person, and so now we're going to put all these restrictions. That's exactly what I was ranting about with that
either way, it's not good.
Yeah, that anti-militia bill. So
yeah, either way, it's not a good bill.
So it seems difficult for when you must have a permit on your person. Yeah, Vanessa, we've been hoping for constitutional carry forever. Mr. Trump, that sounds like a campaign promise you made.
I'm still waiting for the law that the feds promised of treating CCW like a driver's license. If you have it in one state, it's good in every state.
I'm still waiting for...
That's been floated around quite a few times.
I'm still waiting for the 8-year assault on my Second Amendment rights to come to a crashing halt instead of accelerating.
Well, you'd have to wait for the 90-year-old one that started back with the Gun Control Act.
Right. Yep. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So,
Good luck.
Virginia folks, House Bill 567, add that to the list of things you're screaming about, especially because there is a rally in the Capitol in, let's see, math is hard, 12 days? 12 days, yes, on the 20th.
20th,
So
yeah.
the bad thing is they
And-
scheduled that right in the middle of SHOT Show. And so because everything's happening so quickly in Virginia, there's a lot of big names, and I know some of our big names in the 2A community have let us down. Guys, give me time, and I will let you down too. So we can't go going after each other's throats. A lot of these big names that have a big platform and would have that reach, they can't be there because they already had a commitment made to SHOT Show. So
don't worry, there's a false flag coming.
Right. So I think that gets through all of the preliminary stuff. Now, let's talk about the last big thing where it comes to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The thing that allegedly de-escalated today but has been big news since late last week, and that is the current situation in Iran. For those of you who have been hiding under a rock and do your best to avoid the news, and I can't say that I blame you, it's infuriating. Was it Thursday? Well, okay, so there was an attack on a U.S. embassy in Iraq. And I haven't put all the pieces together, but in some form or fashion, the Iranians were involved with that. There was a loss of life in the embassy attack, and so President Trump authorized a drone strike on a convoy which included the Iranian, I believe it's third in line for their presidency or whatever they call that position in their country, who is the military general Qassam Soledad. Do I have that name right? I don't think I have that name right.
I'm trying to remember what his name was. Soleimani?
Soleimani, that's it.
Soleimani, yeah.
And so, allegedly, we did identify a positive kill based on human remains that included a ring that he famously wore, a signet ring or something. And then yesterday, the Iranians responded by firing a number of missiles at U.S. military bases in the Middle East. I've heard numbers between 12 and 22. It has changed every time I've read a news report, and there were 0 casualties from those missile strikes. That was as of yesterday. This morning at 11 Eastern, President Trump held a press conference, and hey, Married with Guns, thank you for subbing. Hopefully you find worth out of either the political commentary on Wednesdays or the regular hardware reviews and going overs the rest of the week. Anyway, back to the point at hand. This morning, press conference, President Trump said that if they are going to seek peace, that we will be peaceful, and we have now de-escalated the situation. Boy, guys, I did not serve in the military. I thank you one and all who did. And I know if you have served, in the military within the last 30 years, there is a great chance that you have put boots on sand in the Middle East. I am a huge military enthusiast. I have a lot of friends who did serve, some of them having done multiple tours in several different sandboxes, and not a bit of this sounds like the Middle Eastern culture and attitude with which I'm familiar from these stories.
No. And as somebody with Middle Eastern background, no.
So, Anyway, Armed Ape, thanks for joining. Yeah, Zeke said that he let his Discord server know. Welcome one and all from Zeke Shoots Discord. Glad you guys came in. I don't know how close we are to wrapping it up, but we are talking about Iran, and Elias did serve in the Air Force, and so you were in Iraq, weren't you?
Yes.
So, so anyway, excuse me. Gosh, I love this head cold. Highly recommend. 2 thumbs up. You guys should go get you a head cold right after the stream's over. Anyway, so what's your take on this, Elias?
In all reality, I really enjoy history, especially military history and tactics. I was in the military. I have Middle Eastern background, so this entire thing has been orchestrated, in my opinion. I really honestly believe. And I could be wrong. I won't say that it's definitely that way, but to me, it feels like it's all been orchestrated. The sequence of events that led to what we've had in the last 2 weeks, was December 27th. There was a rocket attack that killed a U.S. contractor.
Okay.
It was an attack on an Iraqi base. Nobody took credit for it, but the U.S. claimed that Kateb Hezbollah, which is a Iranian-backed militia, was responsible for it. A couple days later, the U.S. carried out pretty much retaliation, quote-unquote, on sites that belong to Kateb Hezbollah in Iraq and Syria. Few commanders were killed, militia commanders were killed, that kind of thing. In response to that, on the 31st, a lot of supporters of pro-Iranian militias, including Hezbollah, broke into the embassy.
Okay.
So, after that, then the U.S. assassinates, kills, however you want to say it, kills Soleimani on January 3rd, who happened for some reason to be in Baghdad. They also killed one of the, I don't think he's the leader of it, but he's attached to Kateb Hezbollah in some way. He is actually in charge of a different militia. But he's somewhat familiar with Kateb, or somewhat connected. Then you get up to a couple days, yesterday, yeah, where they attacked U.S. bases, or I'm sorry, Iraqi bases that have a lot of U.S.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, none of this makes any sense. Why was somebody who was second in line, or third in line, second only to the president of Iran, running a courier's job in Baghdad? They're not friends. Iraqis and Iranians are not friends. Why would they go? That's a courier's job, maybe an ambassador. But the response from the Iranians is what really made me go, this isn't. Iran shot 15 missiles and killed nobody. When you look at the damage, not a lot of damage was done, in my opinion, based on what they could have done. But they're also the way they talked afterwards. They said, okay, they sent out a press release that says our retaliation is over. We were allowed to do this because of Article 57 of the UN Charter. Iran doesn't care about the UN Charter. The U.S. gives that pretense because they have to. So we always give justification why we do an attack. Iran will do an attack because they feel like it, because the president woke up on the wrong side of the bed. So I honestly believe that this was an orchestrated thing, and if he is dead, it's because the Iranians wanted him dead. Soleimani has been critical in the past. He's very, very powerful in Iraq. The Revolutionary Guard likes him. The hardline Islamics like him. Anybody who knows history knows that as long as you have the army on your side, you'll stay in power. I honestly believe the Iranian president was threatened, knowing that the Islamics have been pushing harder and harder for him to go more to the right, and if he didn't, they probably would have backed a coup. By doing this, Trump gets a really good boost in an election year. No one's talking about the, what do you call it right now, impeachment. Let's see, what else? He looks good on the world stage, as putting the U.S. as not taking anything from anybody. Iran gets a safe face because they can say we took on the Great Satan. They're claiming that they killed 80 troops on their media. And it gives the Iranian president a chance to show that he is hardline against America, which may help him with the Islamics. So as somebody who has like studied history and you see this pattern over and over again, there's a saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The U.S. Iran don't like each other, but we know the U.S. has wanted this guy dead for a while. If it's possible that the Iranian president was feeling threatened, he may have also wanted him dead. And you have the makings of a temporary relationship.
Well, it's not the first time we've had...
I could be wrong, but it just doesn't add up to me.
Oh, no, it's one of those things that the pieces just fit a little too good. We've had a lot of that lately. What's that? What's your tagline there? Something about the bread and circus?
Bread and circuses, yeah.
So, and it's funny because as you were talking, Married with Guns asked the same question in the chat. What was an Iranian general in charge of the Quds group doing in Iraq? A country that hates Iran. And fun fact, we're going to circle back around because we've all...
Supposedly it was to deliver a letter, which doesn't make any sense. That's why I said that's a courier's job.
Yeah.
That's an ambassador's job. That's not a military general who's the second most powerful person in the country. That's not his job.
So wait, you're telling me that our Joint Chiefs of Staff don't deliver letters to other towns?
Not so much. Sorry.
So,
sorry. They don't run courier between embassies. Sorry.
So, but we talked earlier in this live stream about managing the narrative. I didn't word it that way, but that's absolutely what it is. It's a matter of managing the narrative. And so, guys, the big thing in social media all week has been the World War III memes and the draft memes. And, well, guys, here's the problem. Who's going to side with Iran? For this to be a world war, and by definition, the vast majority of the world needs to be involved with it. Iran is a Muslim country. So it's questionable whether the communist countries are going to back them. Excuse me. The other Muslim countries, they are all constantly boiling on the verge of civil war because the different sects of Islam hate each other. So this goes back to, we already talked about, if you've got young people in your sphere of influence or you are a young person watching this stream, welcome. Keep your thinking cap on for your whole life. You're super unlikely. It's never a 0% chance, but you're super unlikely to be a victim of an active shooter. And the odds of this having escalated into World War III were always next to zero. And now, here's a another question for you, Elias. Because one of Trump's campaign promises, correct me if I'm wrong, was getting our troops out of Iraq.
Yeah.
What did Iraq do after that? What was it that they said after that drone strike?
Pretty much they wanted U.S. troops out.
So does this give us a way that we can withdraw the troops and save face for...
There's a good chance that it's going to give us some cover.
So...
Oh, and that's the other thing. I forgot to mention. The U.S. was given advance warning of the missile strikes. They knew that the missile strikes were coming. They knew what they were going to hit. The Iranians had shared what they were going to hit and when. So that's another thing to consider.
That doesn't sound like any kind of war tactic I've ever heard of, unless it's showing I'm going to hit here and hit here.
No, they did it by way of Iraq.
Yeah.
They warned the Iraqis who warned the U.S.
So...
It's kind of the same thing. I was really mad about it last year. About this, kind of the same thing that Trump did when he attacked Syria last year with airstrikes. He warned the Russians, who in turn warned the Syrians, and nobody was killed because he needed to show something.
Right. We've got too many people all the way up who have bought into this whole war as a video game thing, and yeah. When war ceases being hell, it's not something that we should ever be aspiring to, I don't think. Prepared for, yes, I am prepared to fight to my death or the death of my adversary for those I love. Don't get me wrong. But that doesn't mean I wake up every morning and say, man, I hope today's the day I have to unholster my gun in anger.
Correct.
You know, so, excuse me. Another proxy war with Russia, Damascus in 85. Just trying to roll back through the chat now. Well, guys, I think that's kind of gotten us through what we had planned out. They want us to think it's a video game, so it dehumanizes the next new enemy. Actually, Zeke, that's a good. My dad had the numbers, and I don't remember what it was, but he was telling me, because I made some comment about. Okay, so there's two ways to look at this, and I grew up playing first-person shooters. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to play a video game, there's a good chance it's going to be a first-person shooter. It's just I haven't in a while. And well, okay, the last one I played very much was Destiny 2, which is like first-person shooter RPG, whatever. We're blurring the lines there. But my dad was saying that back in the Revolutionary War, and they've done some adjustments for accuracy of the weapons. But at the time, people fired at round like archery-style targets, and he had the figures on the typical accuracy, accounting for the inherent inaccuracy of the weapons of the day against human targets in the Revolutionary War. And then over time, they started training with like human silhouettes. And the accuracy against human targets increased because the shooters were used to shooting at a human target. And all the way up to current times where when we play hyper-realistic video games, that it's easier for somebody to draw a bead on a human target because we do play video games that conditions us to that. So, I don't know. It was an interesting study. I wish I had those actual numbers. But now, that saying, I did not just say that playing violent video games makes you a killer. Something broken in your head makes you go, I want to take the life of an innocent person.
Correct. To kind of speak to what he's talking dehumanizing, that's a normal war tactic. 300, I think, is an excellent example of this. The movie 300. Obviously, there weren't actually giants, and there weren't all these kind of, I don't want to say not human kind of, you know what I mean? But
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, they were normal people. However, 300 was written more from how was the story told.
Right.
And as Persia is the enemy, that's the reason why Xerxes is portrayed the way he is, why the giants are portrayed, why the traitors portrayed. Not because that's what they actually looked like, but because you had to dehumanize.
Right.
It couldn't be we're killing just regular people that look just like us.
Right.
You had to trump up the idea. You had to push up this idea that we're fighting things that are disgusting and horrible.
Well, hey, and that, interesting thing, the reason stormtroopers and rebels in Star Wars, there would be an accuracy bias against the stormtroopers because they're all helmeted.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's true. And based guy, using a keyboard and mouse or a controller is a lot different than actually pointing an AR at somebody. It's not the mechanical. It's not the mechanical repetition. That's why that's why you got to be going to the range. You've got to add some stress. Because just setting up targets on the square range isn't going to prepare you for a fight. You probably know that. If you don't, and you want somebody smarter than me, I recommend check out Active Self-Protection and look through John Correa's lessons. Really awesome channel there. Anyway, and he actually, if anybody wants less censored footage from the white settlement shooting here a couple weeks back and lessons pulled from that, Active Self-Protection, last I checked, did still have that video up. Anyway, so it's not the mechanical, pointing and aiming, although I would say that a firearm is the ultimate point and click interface, but that's probably insensitive. It's the concept of drawing a bead on a humanoid target. So, but one thing that we have to be able to switch as personal defenders in our mind is a person who is willing to end the life of an innocent. And I'm not saying any of us are like innocent, but in the moment, an innocent. They have in that moment made themselves, they've accepted the nature of an animal. Now, I don't believe that we are animals. We don't need to get into origin theories here tonight. That's not what we're talking about. But just as I wouldn't have any problem if I stepped out the back door and a coyote ran at one of my kids to drop that coyote, I wouldn't have a problem stepping in and becoming very violent to somebody attempting to injure my family, my students in my school.
Right.
I get angry thinking about the concept. I'm afraid that I would do things that would be considered a war crime if somebody came in to harm somebody important to me. And maybe it's all just bravado and I'd be the first guy down. You know, I read the same memes you guys do. All right. Senatorial aid. Oh, poor conservative was a senatorial aid? That's awesome. Cross training, keyboard and mouse, Thermopylae, never played violent video games, never have fear. Active self-protection, great channel. John, yes, I also follow Warrior Poet Society. John seems like he's an awesome guy. Like, one of my goals, okay, personal goals, guys that I want to hang out with, and if I get to do it as a collab, that's awesome, and if I don't, I still want to hang out with them. Tim from Military Arms Channel, I legitimately think he lives one county west of me. And 2 is John Lovell of Warrior Poet Society, and there's other guys that seem like they'd be cool to hang out with, but those 2 guys are definitely on my short list. And Elias and I, we're going to have to get together in real life again. One of these days. I've actually still got your Glock mags here, so, you know, there's that. Anyhow, Warrior Poets comment. Now, poor conservative, are you saying he's a funny guy, or are you saying that he's laughable in his methodology? I'm interested in where you're going with that, because I laugh at his jokes, and yeah, and his Sportsman Guide ads are amazing. Yeah. Anyway, Boomer Gaming. I'll tell you what. When you go over there, 2 of his more recent videos, he does like his ads for his sponsors, which is usually Sportsman's Guide, and then his own house brand, Warrior Poet Supply. And they did 2 videos like of all of their intros and ads from the year. Good stuff. Good stuff. You just go and watch those just to get a feel for the channel. Tactical Tommy boy. Could be. I don't know. You know, I definitely when somebody's been a ranger, I give them an extra grain of salt, because I do know that just saying, oh, I was a soldier, and no offense to anybody, but just saying I'm a soldier or I'm a police officer doesn't tell me. I went shooting with a Marine who got some hellacious slide bite off of my Glock because he gripped it like this instead of, yeah, he had, I don't even know. I can't describe it. You could mechanically look at the pistol and see that he was going to have a bad time, and I just didn't get him stopped in time. So, Sportsman Guide, nice. Anyway, yeah. So, wrapping up here, let me get back over into my control panel, guys. I do appreciate the time you've spent with us here this evening. If you are not following the channel on social media, and I know that I've got a lot of new guys in here, thank you, Zeke. You guys can follow Tactical Review, that's me, over on Facebook and or Instagram at Tactical Review 2019. Elias, do you have a social media presence set up for Liberty Review yet?
I mean, technically, yes. Liberty Review 1776 on Facebook.
Okay. And guys, Elias is still, some of you guys have been with us for a little while, and you know that Elias is still getting everything put together. Those early days, those of you who are content creators, you understand just getting a feel and getting time to do it. I'm going to guess that's your biggest challenge, Elias, is having the...
Yeah, pretty much. Finding the time.
Because there's no shortage of political stupidity about which to talk.
Yeah.
Anyway, and yeah, if you guys would like to help Tactical Review out financially, I would really appreciate that. And you can do that over at Patreon, patreon.com/tacticalreview. Right now, I don't have any channel sponsors. I don't do a lot of the cool things that the big boys do. I do try to give you guys 24-hour early access to my streams. Sometimes, due to technical reasons, that's just not as possible as I would like. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Or, obviously, if there's a hot button issue that I make a quick video about, that's a different thing. I did throw... excuse me, I did throw Liberty Review's website in the chat a little whiles back. That is libertyreviews1776.com. Excuse me. Gosh, I didn't mean to blow out anybody's speakers there. And it's going out through the website to, right now, Apple Music and Spotify. Is that right, Elias?
I know it's Apple, Spotify. I think there's a couple others too.
Okay.
Or you can get it straight
from the website is the most up-to-date way. I know that with episode 1, Epstein didn't kill himself. I listened to it from the website. Okay, actually, Elias sent it to me the night before as a preview, which was really cool. And then I listened to it on the website, and it didn't show up in Spotify until like 14 hours later. So, they just don't do build video. Zeke, don't go watch my Glock 19 slide assembly video. Now, my AR lower, I did only put that on Gunstreamer. And guys, if I ever do anything that's only going to be on Gunstreamer, I will put a video here telling you about that and have a bit.ly link or something that's easy to remember to find that. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And keep an eye on social media, because I can post things like that there and let you guys know. Except when Instagram says I'm trying to sell bullets that I was just excited I got a good price on. That was stupid. I also let you guys know whenever Elias posts something new, I will put that up on Insta, because it's good stuff. He is definitely the brains of our duo. My live streams are so much better when you're here, Elias. You understand... I don't know. Does that mean that there's something a little broken in your head, because you do understand this stuff better than I do?
The fact that I enjoy reading politics means there's something wrong with me.
I'm not gonna lie. I was a little concerned when you could read stuff on Mom's Demand Action and laugh about it, and not just like rate. It makes...
No, I laugh about that stuff. It's so ridiculous.
It makes me want to rage quit the United States. So,
I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Stream, really. Zeke, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Guys, once again, do keep in mind, if you live in Indiana, if you know people who live in Indiana, reach out to your district senators about Senate Bill 203. If you live in Virginia, you've got a whole host of things to be screaming at your reps about, the most recent of which is House Bill 567. And guys, see, once again, this is something that I should have had ready, but I'm going to do this before we part ways here, and it'll be just 1 second. But I do have that form letter that I have created for reaching out to your federal representatives over all of the bullcrap that the ATF has been doing recently with sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once. Reclassifying firearms that they have previously allowed. And, guys, if you want to know more about that, I will put a link in the description. But I do have that form letter that I have created for reaching out to your federal representatives over all of the bullcrap that the ATF has been doing recently with the ATF has been doing recently with And once again, it's not a matter of, I don't care if you think that these are the best firearms ever or the stupidest thing ever. It's a matter of every inch they get doesn't come back. I don't have an actual account, but I imagine we could count on one hand the number of rights that we have regained after they're lost. So there is a form letter that Elias and I collaboratively drafted that you can just download, or you can either save to your Google Drive if you're a Google user, or download it as a Word document and add your name, add your representatives' names, and then you can send that out. And this is specifically, again, in response to the reclassification of the Franklin Armory Franklin Armory Reformation firearm and the Fostech Origin SBV. And you're very welcome, SwitchPod, Married with Guns. Excuse me. I do have a show Liberty Review. Okay. I am Tactical Review at protonmail.com. It's also, if you go into my About page on my channel, that is the email address that I have for that. So fully support Proton Mail. They're an awesome platform, and they're hosted in a country with no data extradition laws, so that's a good thing. So there's that. Boomer, I was also, so my wife has actually been driven crazy with how I've jumped in both feet into personal protection and now the political side. For years and years and years, I have tried to be fairly apolitical. I've voted in every election. Second Amendment has always been my hot button item. But politics as a whole really pissed me off because I do not like stupidity. I don't like it when I do stupid things. It makes me angry. I don't like it when people... And it's, again, there's a difference between ignorance and stupidity. If you just don't know something, that's not a problem. But when... Case in point, again, I work at a school. We have iPads. We have a one-to-one iPad program. We're not going to talk about the pros and cons of that, but they do their standardized testing on those. We're not going to talk about the pros and cons of that either. Strongly against. Anyway, the students know this. And yet I had one student who came in 2 days in a row to borrow a charger because he did not charge his iPad overnight. I looked him in the eye and I said, "Were you surprised by the fact that you are taking a test today?" No. Can't stand things like that, and there's too much of that in politics. I'm a firm believer we need to fire the lot of them. Love him or hate him, one thing that I like that Trump had going for him, excuse me, is that he has not been a politician forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. I still don't think he was the best person for the job. He was possibly the best person that actually made it onto a final ballot. We're not going to get into that either. Ignorance is ignoring facts, exactly, and people get offended. Look, I am ignorant about so many things. If you ask me to rebuild a turbocharger for you, okay, I could probably accomplish that, but I'm going to use Google as an aid. If you ask me to do surgery on you, I am super ignorant and you don't want that. I could apply it.
YouTube.
I can apply a tourniquet and I could probably field stitch it, but we're going to need a lot of antibiotics. Anyway, so you guys are firing me back up here in the comment section, and it's like 10:30. You guys got to stop. All right. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Elias, excuse me, Elias, what do you have to add? You've gotten quiet here.
The only thing I got to add is pretty much the basis of the podcast. Don't believe everything you see, you hear. Just because it walks like a duck and talks like doesn't make it a duck.
Well, and
this Iran thing to me is an example of that. Don't take everything at face value. Question everything. 100%.
And yeah, you're going to be accused of being a tinfoil wearer. That's okay. This
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
And we're going to step away for a word from today's sponsor, Reynolds Wrap. No, not really. Besides that, let's be honest here, guys. Every channel's first video sponsor is Raid Shadow Legends. Hey, yes, it's a meme now. I can meme. Yeah. And that's the other thing, guys, is there's a quote about figures lie and liars figure, whatever. Just like with the FBI crime stats. Make sure that you trust the source who is digesting the information for you if you're not going to go back to source. Because if you go to the 2018 mass shootings Wikipedia page and you run the statistics just based off of that, off of the anti-gunner's definition of a mass shooting, you are going to come up with, it's still like 1 in 1.6 million chance of being shot and being the victim of an active shooting in a year. When you actually take out gang activity, when you take out self-defense where there were more than 4 attackers, that's where you get a more realistic number. You have a 1 in 11.6 million chance of being a victim of an active shooter based on 2018 crime statistics. Okay, and right. Anyway, figures don't lie, but liars can always figure. Thank you, Mateo. Thank you, guys. You guys, I appreciate the thumbs up on the stream. Guys, thank you guys for joining, and thank you for your commentary in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Without you, I'm just an idiot talking to a camera. Not that I'm not good at that anyway. So, guys, until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.